Good afternoon. Welcome to BJU Press's second Facebook Live. My name is Ben Davis, and we're holding this Facebook Live event so that we can take your questions about your homeschool curriculum. If you have any questions, you can go ahead and submit those as a comment below, or you can even private message us, and we'll try and get to as many of your questions as possible today. And take just a few moments here to let some more people get connected. But just to let you know, my name is Ben Davis, and I'm a homeschool graduate. My parents homeschooled me from kindergarten to 12th grade, and my wife and I are homeschooling our oldest daughter now, and we're really excited to be doing that. And because of that whole connection with homeschool, pretty much my entire life, it's been very exciting to be working at Homeschool Publishing Company here at BJU Press, to be able to contribute back to the homeschool community, a homeschool community that's blessed me so much. And we are here again to take your questions, and we had a couple of questions come in last week, and so we'll be addressing those, as well as some questions that are frequently asked questions. So let's go ahead and begin with one that came at the very end of our Facebook Live last time 2 weeks ago, and that is, if I already have my curriculum, can I still get video lessons? And what I would say is, it's a qualified yes, you can still do that, and the real key is whether or not the edition that you purchased lines up with the edition in the video lessons. And you would want to check that, and then if you do have a qualifying edition, then you will be able to add those video lessons for a nominal fee. So we'll put a link into the description that if you have the curriculum already for this year and you would like to buy video lessons, you can go ahead and check out the description to check and see if your edition lines up, and there's also some ordering instructions on that page as well. The second question that I have today is, do I need a teacher's edition? And this is a question we get at conventions. This is something we hear from homeschoolers quite a bit. And my answer is usually the teacher's edition is greatly going to enhance your child's educational experience. And to try and explain that, I start with the student text and maybe a work text, and I say, this is educational content, and maybe there's some skills they're going to practice in there. But education is never really about content or skills, although that's the objective. You want to develop knowledge of content and skills and things like math and grammar. But education is really something that happens inside of a child. It's not something that's there on a page or something they fill out in a blank. It's something that happens inside of them. So what we have to do as parents is to be able to create educational experiences for our children to help them internalize the learning. And when that happens, that's when the learning really comes alive for the child. And everything that you need to do to create that experience, BJU Press has helped you create that experience with tips in the teacher's edition. Now, a lot of these things that you might be able to come up with on your own, but some of them are very challenging to come up in a day in and day out basis. And so a teacher's edition is very, very helpful. Just to kind of walk you through the teacher's edition that I use, I teach Heritage Studies to my daughter. This is Heritage Studies 3. She's in 3rd grade this year. And so every night after dinner and after family worship, I grab my teacher's edition, she grabs her student text and her activity manual, and then we go to it. And what's great about this teacher's edition is that there's all of these tips to help me create educational experiences for my daughter. For example, there are questioning strategies in this book that help me take her from superficial understanding of the text to a deep down critical understanding, so that she has critical thinking skills as she reads through the material. There are also different types of activities that are in this teacher's edition so that we can accommodate lots of different types of learning styles. There are going to be background material in this teacher's edition so that I can expand on what is in the student text, give it more context and more vividness. And then finally, there are strategies in here that help me develop biblical worldview shaping in my daughter's thinking. So quite a few different parts of this teacher's edition are all aimed at one thing, and that is to provide me with resources so that I can create that educational experience for my daughter that's going to unlock learning for her. And that's very helpful. But the other part of my teacher's edition that helps me is helping me stay organized. So in these teacher's editions, at the very beginning are something called lesson plan overviews. And those lesson plan overviews are going to tell me what my daughter is going to be learning. It gives me kind of a goal for my daughter. It tells me the pages we're going to be covering. It's going to give me different types of activity manual pages as well. And so that's very helpful for keeping me on track. It's also going to give me my answer keys, and it's also going to provide me with a number of the resources that are just going to help me stay on track. One of the things that you can see here, this is a lesson that I taught my daughter here very recently, and that is on the Constitutional Convention. And the very first thing is it gives me a lesson focus, and as well as some vocabulary that my daughter might not be familiar with that I need to define before she gets started. And then you can see this red and blue text throughout the page. That blue text are questions that are given to me, suggestions that help me evaluate my daughter's understanding and help her really drive her critical thinking skills. So she's not just reading the material and then regurgitating it on a test or quiz. She has deep down understanding and she can apply it in an effective way. As I go throughout, there's going to be background information on some of the characters we'll meet in the Constitutional Convention, like James Madison, and also something about the location where the Constitutional Convention was. There are activities with this little red banner here. It gives me a little bit of a hands-on activity. For example, if we want to show what a historical document looks like and how that feels, we have an activity for that. So all of these resources are here, and again, these resources are all ready for me, and I can use some of them, or I can decide, hey, we don't have time for that activity and my daughter really has a good grasp of this concept, and so we're going to keep on moving. And that all is there to help me. And this is something I want to make crystal clear, and that is that this curriculum serves me as the parent, as the teacher of my child. I do not serve this curriculum. So if I see something in here and I say, you know, that's really not going to be helpful for us tonight, I just skip it. And so that is something you want to keep in mind, because we pack a ton of resources into this teacher's edition that you can use. You shouldn't expect to use them all necessarily. We've had a question in here about whether or not there's an electronic version of these. We will mention there is an electronic version for parents who are using distance learning on their account. So if you want to access that as a distance learning parent, you will be able to do that. And if you're just joining us, my name is Ben Davis, and what I'm here talking about today is taking your questions about curriculum. And if you have any questions today, please put them into the comments. Just let me know, and we'll try and take your questions live today. The next frequently asked question that I have today is, what can I do to support my child's learning style? And this is frequently a question that is a concern for parents because they know their child. And let's start by taking that apart. What are different types of learning styles? We're talking about is different ways of learning. For example, if you're learning through your ears or through hearing, then that's auditory learning. If you're learning through seeing, that's visual learning. If you're learning by doing, that's kinesthetic learning. And one of the things that you want to keep in mind is that all of us learn best when we're using more than one of our senses. So for me, even as an adult, if I just read something, I'm not going to learn it as well as if I read it and I hear it at the same time. I'm not going to learn it as well as if I just read it and I don't go out and practice it and do it. So all of us really learn best when a variety of learning approaches are included in our learning experience. So while your child might have a learning preference, something that a way they prefer to learn, really their learning is going to be best if lots of different senses, visual, auditory, kinesthetic, are involved in the learning experience. So don't pigeonhole your child. Don't say, well, my child is more of a visual learner, and so we're not going to do many hands-on activities. You include the hands-on activities for them. I know with my daughter, she's very much of a verbal learner. She can read things and it's in her head, but I have learned more and more as I'm teaching my daughter that if I don't take time to do those hands-on activities, especially as she's younger in 3rd grade, that she's not going to have the deep down understanding that she would have otherwise had. So include multiple learning approaches for all of your children. And what I find as a parent, I have a teaching approach that I prefer, and that's my go-to approach to teaching my daughter. And so I have to slow myself down and incorporate some of these activities that I know are going to unlock the understanding, unlock that educational experience that's going to make the learning come alive for my daughter. So let's take a couple of examples of that. One of those is probably math. And really with math, it's critical, especially for children who are first starting to learn mathematics, to engage all of their senses in the learning process. So for example, when you begin, we don't want to just give them a math problem and say, here's how you solve it, these are the steps, now solve it. We want to start by touching physical items. So, you want to pull out with your different place value mats and get some manipulatives, maybe some different items like some buttons. If you're using the BJU press materials and have the manipulatives packets, we have a variety of manipulatives that you can put into that. So that's something that you want to begin with, because as children are actually touching things and moving them around in a kinesthetic way, it's unlocking an understanding that is going to aid them throughout the rest of their lives when it comes to problem solving. And then once they've done that, then you're ready to show it to them visually. Show them pictures on the page of concrete things. Maybe here's 5 butterflies and 6 bees. And if we add these bugs together, how many do we have? It's not something they're touching, but they're learning visually. And through both of these processes, reinforcing it audibly, talking it through with the child, having them talk through what they're doing. And again, if you have the TE, it's going to walk you through all of that, all the different questions and instruction you can give to really make sure that your child has the deep down understanding of the material when it comes to math. So when you have that math learner, even if they're performing well and they seem to be getting all of the questions correctly, they might be able to compute correctly. They might be able to get the right answer on a standardized test, but the real question is, do they really understand it? And by involving lots of different senses in the learning experience, It's going to unlock that deep down understanding for the child so that they not only do well on a standardized test, but they can solve problems. Another example would be reading. My wife was seeing that we were going to be covering a story about cowpens, the Battle of Cowpens, in the reader. And this was a fictional story about a drummer who was at the battle. And so what she said is, hey, we have a free afternoon here. Let's go to the battlefield. Now, we're really close to the battlefield. We live in Greenville, South Carolina, so it was like a 45-minute drive. It was a beautiful day. Had a great time with the whole family visiting that battlefield. And what we did was have this learning experience for my daughter that did two things. One, it gave her a concrete picture of what the battlefield looked like in a visual way. She was able to, in a kinesthetic, active way, to walk up and down the battlefield to get a sense of, here were the Revolutionary soldiers, here were the British soldiers, and it unlocked her curiosity about that story because we told her, hey, in about 2 weeks, we're going to be covering a story about that. And it really unlocked her anticipation to learn. And she had a much deeper understanding of that story because of her experience. Now, the point of that isn't, if you're going to read a story about cowpens, go to cowpens, but to think about the options that are available to you. For example, in the reading TE, it didn't say visit cowpens, it said get a drum and show them a drum, because this is a story about a drummer boy. And so, if you have a drum, or you can grab an oatmeal tin and be able to pound on that and just unlock with a concrete item something that the child can begin to think concretely about the story. It's really going to unlock understanding for them as they're reading their story. So just to summarize, there are multiple learning approaches or learning styles, but don't pigeonhole your child into one particular one. Engage as many of them as possible. And whenever you do that, it's really going to make the learning come alive, internalize it for the child so that it happens on a deep down level. And they're really going to enjoy it more that way. And what we've done with our Teacher's Edition is to pack a variety of different suggestions into the Teacher's Edition so that people can, so that you can have as many suggestions for hands-on activities, for visual activities, for audio activities as you need. So use those Teacher's Edition. Let me get to one other question that we get quite frequently, and that is, how much value should I assign to each question? We had a question like this on our last Facebook Live event, and we also had one like this on our blog. So this is something that many people struggle with, and what we want to explain is that here at BJU Press, we're not going to say this question's worth X number of points and this assignment's worth 10 and the other one's worth 25, because we believe that you as the parent are the best one to make that decision. We're going to provide you with a variety of assignments that you can give your child, but remember, that curriculum is there to serve you. You are not there to serve the curriculum. So don't feel like you have to do all of the assignments. When my wife assigns math to my daughter, she rarely assigns all of the questions. She picks the ones that she wants my child to do. So all of that to say, you are the parent, know best how to assign value to each individual assignment. But having said that, let me give you a little bit of direction on some things that you can use to help you decide how much value you should assign to a particular question. First of all, assign it based on how much you value the activity. Let's say it's a multiple choice question. It's pretty straightforward. I wouldn't assign many points to that. But if it were an essay question where my daughter has to write a paragraph, I'm going to assign more value to that. So you decide, hey, this activity is really important to me. I want my child to take this seriously. So we're going to put a grade on it so they know this is important. And then that's how you want to assign value to that particular question. Another way that you can do that is, to assign value is based on your goals and your child's strengths. So, for example, I'm teaching my daughter about the Constitution right now. And I know that my daughter's going to be learning about the Constitution throughout her kindergarten through 12th grade experience. She's going to learn about it more in 4th grade and 5th grade and 8th grade. She's going to learn more about it, especially in 12th grade when she takes the American government. And she's going to have lots of opportunities to master the Constitution. So my goal could be that I want my daughter to just have an introductory level knowledge of the Constitution. So I just want her to know, hey, the Constitution is the document on which our nation's government is built. That is a sufficient goal for a 3rd grader. If she has that, then she's doing very well. And she's going to grow and expand on that as she gets older. But I really want to challenge my daughter to know more. I want her to understand it in a deeper way. I can tell she's eager, she's excited, she really wants to learn this material. She's been looking forward to this. So I'm going to be giving her more challenging questions, and I'm going to be holding her accountable for those more challenging questions in the assignments, because I believe she can achieve that, because this is her strength. God's really blessed her, given her talents and ability in that area. So I'm really going to encourage her along that way. Then in a third way, I would recommend that you use that to motivate your child. When you're just doing assignments and it doesn't seem like it matters if you do your best or you just give half-hearted attempt, then that isn't very motivating to a child. So if you show them, hey, we're paying attention, you're trying your best, and you got a good grade on that, or we saw tonight you weren't really trying that hard, and so we're going to give you a lower grade on your assignment tonight. That's something that can motivate them to always try their hardest, and that's very important. So I'd also like to note that one of our commenters has pointed out that within the distance learning program, if you are using distance learning, then there's a record of grades there, and that gives you kind of a diagram on how to what value to give to each of your assignments. So if you're a parent that's using BJU Press distance learning, there's already something laid out like that you can use. But if you're using our textbook program, just want to really empower you, assign grades that you think are appropriate for your child and their learning experience. Well, that is the questions that we have today. It was very encouraging to be able to see you come out today. And one of the things that we would invite you to do is to send us any questions that you have about your materials. We're doing this because we want to be able to help you through with your questions. And so if you have any of those questions, feel free to contact us. There's a variety of ways that you can contact us, and all of those are laid out in the description for this Facebook Live event. So if you have any additional questions, you can send those our way. And we'll be taking more questions in 2 weeks on September 22nd at 2 p.m. Eastern. So you can plan on that, and you can also send us any questions that you have. And we hope that you continue to have a blessed school year, a restful weekend, and a blessed time with your Savior on the Lord's Day.